Good morning, Carly and Todd. So this marks the end of a weeks-long standoff, an effort to negotiate a second stage of the ceasefire. What we are seeing today is Israel carrying out these strikes across part of the Strip. You can see in some of the dark footage there of these strikes lighting up the sky, with the IDF saying it's going after Hamas targets like officials and infrastructure. The renewed fighting comes during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, and footage this morning shows the widespread extent of some of the damage across the Strip. The first stage of the ceasefire ended 2 weeks ago. Negotiators have yet to hammer out a second stage, which would free the remaining hostages. Israel's defense minister saying this, quote, "The decision comes after Hamas repeatedly refused to release our hostages and rejected all proposals presented by U.S. President's envoy Steve Witkoff, as well as the mediators." Now, as Israel renews its offensive against Hamas, President Trump is also giving a warning to Yemen's Houthis and Iran, posting this online. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran. And Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and the consequences will be dire. And his press secretary laying out the message even further.
As President Trump has made it clear, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, all those who seek to terrorize not just Israel, but also the United States of America, will see a price to pay. All hell will break loose. The Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iranian-backed terror proxies, and Iran themselves should take President Trump very seriously when he says he is not afraid to stand for law-abiding people. He is not afraid to stand up for the United States of America and our friend and our ally, Israel.
And Israel says that it will continue to lay out this military pressure, something that it says it will do as long as necessary. Carly, Todd, back to you.
Alex Hogan live for us in London. Alex, thank you. Let's bring in former Assistant Secretary of State for George W. Bush, Robert Charles. Robert, the IDF says that it learned Hamas used the pause in fighting to stock up on weapons in preparation for new attacks. Did Israel have any other choice than to do what it did last night?
No, Todd, actually, and good morning to you all. It's absolutely a fact that Israel is and with Donald Trump's full support and the support of the United States of America, is making clear that we're back to a world of geopolitical consequences. Having spent a lot of time over in the Middle East, I will just tell you that sometimes you have to be blunt in order to get the message through. And what he's saying quite clearly is that Hamas and the Houthis and probably Hezbollah are out over their skis. And at the end of the day, I'll tell you, the consequences of this could be that there's no one to have a ceasefire with when Israel is done, because Hamas may be in their final days.
Okay, so over the weekend, the president ordered airstrikes against Houthis in Yemen. And then yesterday, as Alex was just reporting, President Trump put Iran on notice, said every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from weapons and leadership of Iran. Iran will be held responsible. Will this action taken by the president, followed by this statement putting Iran on notice, change the posture of the Iranian regime?
It's an excellent question. You know, it depends how quickly they get the message. At the end of the day, these are all tentacles of Iran. Iran bankrolls Hamas and bankrolls Hezbollah and the Houthis. And I think at the end of the day, Iran's got to think very, very hard about what this president means. Donald Trump means what he says and says what he means. And thank God there is someone like Donald Trump there. I mean, there have been too many presidents who have been waffling, and in particular waffling in their support of Israel. And I think at the end of the day, this is a new world order for Iran. They're going to have to sit up, recognize that the next thing that happens is potential strikes against their assets. And I think he's making it crystal clear. Do not miss the message. The message is for you, Iran. You get it right, or you're going to pay a consequence you wish you didn't have to pay.
Robert, you said something in your answer to my question that I want to jump off of. You said, if this continues down the path that it currently looks like it is, there may not be a Hamas to negotiate with because it may be wiped off the face of the earth. Do you ultimately think that there is any proposal at this point, after we've gone back and forth for months now, is there any proposal that Hamas would agree to, or in the end, is this a fight to the end for them?
It's an excellent question, Todd. It really is. Is this, are we going to think about Hamas like the Bolsheviks and the SS that they once were and they are no more? Or is there any room at all for a conversation? I would tell you that at some point, all trust is lost. And if all trust is lost, this is the end of Hamas. If on the other hand, there's an immediate turn of tide and they change of heart and they can get these 11 hostages out of there, maybe there's some room to bring Hamas, whatever's left of it, back into the political process. But I feel very badly not only for Israel, of course, because Israel is the constant victim here, but Hamas has basically victimized the Palestinians in Gaza all over again.
Yeah, and there's still one living Israeli-American hostage in Gaza, Edon Alexander, and 4 deceased. And we eagerly await for their return to Israel or the United States and pray that that does take place. So last week, Robert, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he is open to a ceasefire deal, but he did not agree to the negotiated one that Ukraine signed on to. He said that he wants to have a phone conversation with President Trump. That conversation is happening today, which seems like a pretty significant moment. How do you feel about it?
Well, how do I feel about it, Carly? First of all, doesn't it just show you we're in a whole new world where Putin is calling Trump to please include me in the peace deal and let's see where we can go? Look, there are significant reasons for Russia to come to the table right now. They're using North Korean troops. They're using Chinese drones. They're exhausted. The popular opinion in Russia is beginning to turn. They don't even send the pine boxes home like in Vietnam. They literally just bury people on the battlefield. And mothers know when their sons don't come home. So I think at some point here, this was a war of attrition that was eventually going to stop. But what's fascinating is that Donald Trump is really taking a page, in my view, from Theodore Roosevelt in 1905. Russia and China were at war with each other. Russia and Japan were at war with each other. Japan had attacked Russia, and that war ended when territory that Japan had taken, Port Arthur and part of the Sakhalin Islands, was negotiated out in a way that allowed Japan to keep the territory, but a balance of power to be restored. And of course, Nobel Prize was given to Theodore Roosevelt for that. So at the end of the day, I think Donald Trump has taken the initiative, done what Americans do when, as the world leader, he has said, you know what, this war has gone on long enough. We have lost thousands of young men and frankly, lots of civilians, and it's time to end this war. So I think it's fascinating. And I think a peace, who knows, by July 4th, we might actually have a peace. Who knows?
Robert Charles, we will be watching. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Robert.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.